by Mayor Boris Johnson the last and greatest single prospect for regeneration in central London. In one of the most ambitious plans for the capital, work has already begun on a 15-year project that will transform 195 hectares of space on the South Bank, stretching from Battersea to Vauxhall, into a cluster of new apartments, business sites and leisure areas. A £15 billion regeneration programme that will bring 16,000 new homes and 25,000 new jobs. And at its heart, the redevelopment of the industrial cathedral that is Battersea Power Station, as well as the building of a new £650 million US embassy at Nine Elms. IBTimes spoke to the councillors, developers and agencies involved to find out their vision for the area and how locals and Londoners will benefit. This stretch of the South Bank is a wasteland practically ignored since the Industrial Revolution, but with precious space in central London, British developers have long realised the potential presented by Nine Elms.
So we bought what's now known as Riverlight in November 2009, which was right at the heart of the financial crisis. So it's quite a difficult decision for us to make. We bought the site without any planning permission, and the month we acquired the site was the same time as the GLA published their first draft of the planning brief for the area.
CLS, we see ourselves as a local business. We've been located here in Vauxhall for over 20 years. So whereas quite a number of the other developers are new to the area, we've seen the potential here for quite a considerable time.
Poor transport links have meant that the area has lied dormant, despite lying across the river from upscale Chelsea and less than a mile upstream from the Houses of Parliament.
This was one of the major obstacles to development not happening in the past, the lack of accessibility. So the biggest intervention is the Northern Line extension, which is a two-station extension to the Northern Line from Kennington. That's £1 billion worth of infrastructure coming into the area.
The extension is being funded by a £1 billion loan from the government, which will be paid back over time by the parties set to benefit in the area. But for this massive regeneration project, it's foreign investors from the US to China who are providing most of the finance.
At Battersea Power Station, you have a consortium of Malaysian companies, sort of Sime Darby, SP Setia and the Malaysian Pension Fund are the kind of investors in that development. Because the American Embassy is the American Embassy, and the Market Towers site is bought by a Chinese development group.
The major catalyst for the area's regeneration was when, in 2008, the US government announced plans to move from its current embassy in Mayfair and build a brand new one right here in Nine Elms.
The US had sort of outgrown its current embassy, much smaller, and the current embassy also didn't meet all of the new security standards that our embassies need to meet. So the US government had actually done an analysis of rehabilitating, renovating, adding security measures to the current embassy. But again, the sort of constraints of the existing site, the need for more space led us to a different solution, and this is that solution.
Americans will begin populating the enormous glass cube from 2017. A new residential complex, Embassy Gardens, will be built around the site. And with the new Dutch embassy moving next door, Nine Elms looks set to be a new diplomatic quarter on the South Bank.
We've occasionally referred to this in other cities as the embassy effect or the US embassy effect. We will sometimes move to a new neighborhood, this type of redevelopment zone, and we see other embassies who, again, are oftentimes expanding, are in outdated facilities in older, very expensive parts of town. This creates an opportunity.
You've got the fact the Americans are moving here. We've now got the Dutch embassy moving onto site as well. So, you know, for anybody who's looking to buy, to live here, or to invest in here, you know, in terms of a location, you know, you bring in. Effectively, you bring in Grosvenor Square, Berkeley Square to Nine Elms.
20 separate developments are taking place within the so-called opportunity area, from the New York-style tenements of Embassy Gardens to the shimmering modern buildings of Riverlight. All along the South Bank, there'll be a mishmash of brick, glass and steel, tied together by the linear park, which will run like a green ribbon through all these new buildings.
You know, there is glass and steel on the waterfront, but also you've got the power station itself, which is the largest brick building in Europe. So I don't think brick stands away from that. And I think altogether, I think the way that Wandsworth and all the developers together have thought about the process of knitting together the linear park, knitting together all the buildings, and I think there's a really good thought through process here.
I think probably the thing that's going to strike people most is we're continuing the green route which runs through the heart of the Nine Elms on the South Bank area and linking it to the South Bank, which, as you know, is now one of London's most popular walking places, you know. So ideally in the future you'll be able to go more or less from Tower Bridge right down to Battersea Power Station in a really high quality environment, and we're trying to do our bit of that in Vauxhall.
This is an example of what the luxurious Riverlight apartments will look like. These homes have attracted foreign buyers, but developers maintain that Londoners are buying into the area.
Listen, this is central London, so the prices, you know, are going to be at a certain price, and anything from, for us, anything from £250,000 upwards when we first launched. But the reality is that yes, Londoners are buying in here. I mean, so we actually don't see it just being an overseas investment. We don't see that when there's a lot of locals who've bought into the scheme as well.
Both Lambeth and Wandsworth councils also promise that affordable homes for locals will be provided.
We will produce in this part of the borough 2,500 affordable homes. But it'll be homes for Wandsworth people, homes for Londoners as well.
Well, in Lambeth we have a very strong policy of 40% affordable homes for any development in the borough. Now, of course, that's challenged in an area like this where the price of land is very, very high. But we do try to make sure that we get the best deal for our residents. It's very important to us that this turns into a place which is really for mixed communities.
The rest of the homes will be in tens of thousands, and they will be homes again for Londoners as well as international investors. And actually on the international investors, I say very, very plainly, one cannot say London is a world-class city and then say foreigners keep out.
The redevelopment work promises 25,000 new jobs, as well as regenerating the area's most recognised establishment, New Covent Garden Market. The largest fruit, flower and vegetable market in the UK, it supplies 40% of all food eaten on a plate in London outside the home. Now it's set to be transformed as part of the ambitious plans for Nine Elms.
Well, New Covent Garden Market's been here at Vauxhall for nearly 40 years, and some of the buildings show it. So the main opportunity we've got is to build a new market for the 21st century by consolidating the flower market here behind me with the fruit and vegetable market south of the railway line, and that will enable us to open up the area that's currently closed to the public and create new residential accommodation, shops, offices, and for us the most exciting part of all, a new garden heart, which is going to be a market open to the public with the opportunity to see the very best of the fruit and vegetables and flowers that are in the wholesale market, and also hopefully to encourage new entrepreneurs involved in the food business, involved in restaurants, hospitality, tourism. It's going to be a really new focus, I think, for people in this area and indeed for visitors to London.
Nine Elms is looking to become not just a hotbed for new homes and new jobs, but a vibrant cultural hub.
We already have a lot of existing artists, studios, galleries, and so we're starting to talk about a Vauxhall gallery district. And obviously that links kind of very much with the sort of things that are happening down in the Nine Elms development area with the cultural offer.
So James has always had a strong interest in cultural placemaking, and the opportunity presented itself to work with the Royal College of Art. So we've given them a 5-year rent-free space on a gallery which is at the base of Riverlight 1, the first building to be occupied. And it's part of the wider cultural strategy which we believe very strongly in for Riverlight, and includes a series of pieces that we've commissioned by leading artists to create art pieces, sculptures within the public realm.
The influx will transform this vast swathe of the South Bank into an area for living, working and leisure. The challenge now is to make sure it all happens harmoniously so that a new community can be formed.
You know, a lot of the communities that have been in the Vauxhall area for a long long period of time want to feel part of this development. It's very important for us that this area doesn't feel like something alien to the rest of Lambeth, but that it actually inspires, encourages and increases involvement from people who already live here.
I think one of the important things is that during this construction period we all work together as landowners and developers to make sure that we're getting jobs for local people, we're getting the training that will help local people to access those jobs, but also we're building the vitality and the culture and the new access to the river that people have never had before, so that throughout the whole process they don't have to wait for the end. We're thinking about how that engages locally and across London.
Well, with both of our schemes, one of the great things about them is that it actually opens up the area. With the Spring Mews scheme, we are creating obviously a brand new mews which is going to link the area through to Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens. With the Vauxhall Square scheme, at the moment it's an area that's completely covered by old warehouses. There's no permeability, you can't walk through it. So we're going to be opening that up and creating a brand new public square.
What's hugely important is that this is not an isolated community, this is not an isolated development that we're creating. This is part of London. All of the infrastructure that we're building, from the park to the schools to the health centres, are for everybody.
The redevelopment of Nine Elms is a work in progress that will, over the years, radically transform London's South Bank. It's a wildly ambitious project, but as long as the area can incorporate these brand new buildings with its industrial heritage, integrate new tenants and locals, and foster a thriving sense of community on the South Bank as an in-demand place to live as well as work, Nine Elms could be one of London's greatest success stories.